Welcome to episode 4 of Stick to Sports. I'm Zach Malamud.
And I'm Zach Mash. Today, Jalen Suggs has a March Madness moment. Roy Williams retires after a 33-season career, and the MLB season is officially underway.
Roll it. A shot that will go up in March Madness history. The Gonzaga Bulldogs survives Saturday night as guard Jalen Suggs hit a buzzer beater in overtime from just beneath the half-court line to send Gonzaga to the national championship game. The Bulldogs beat the 11 seed UCLA Bruins 93-90. Zach, should this go down as one of the best March Madness games in history?
It was an incredible game. Everything about it was incredible. The back and forth nature of it, the whole narrative of an 11 seed facing a 1 seed and probably the favorites in the entire tournament. America and everyone loves the David and Goliath matchup, and obviously it had the final shot to go along with it. So it has all the makings to be one. We'll have to see down the road. I think all-time classics, you have to look a little bit down the road first before you figure out where they stand, but this certainly had all the makings of one, and it was a terrific game to watch, just great basketball.
Yeah, I agree with you. You got to look a couple years down the road and look back and see if it was one of the greats. But an 11 seed in the Final Four, challenging the undefeated top team in the nation. The drama from this game was March Madness in a nutshell. And what better way to end the game than a buzzer beater from half court by Jalen Suggs? But that's what champions do. A close game, backs against the wall. They step up when they need it most. UCLA deserves a lot of credit. Nobody gave them a chance as an 11 seed. And Johnny Juzang dropping 29 on Saturday. What a game and time for Gonzaga to prepare for the championship.
It's certainly what you sign up for when you see March Madness games. Anyways, over to the NFL. Sam Darnold finally has a new team. The Carolina Panthers traded a 2021 sixth-round draft pick, as well as a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick in 2022. Presumably, the Jets will now have their eyes on a new franchise quarterback with the second overall pick in this year's draft. How will the rest of Sam Darnold's career play out, do you think?
Sam Darnold can have a solid NFL career in Carolina. He does have Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. So Darnold is set up nicely under Matt Rule in Carolina. This just answers the questions we've been asking, though. The Jets are going to draft a quarterback at number 2. I'm still shaky as a Jets fan with the Jets not great at developing young quarterbacks in the past, but a second, a fourth, and a sixth is good enough for the Jets. I'm not sure it's a haul, but they were looking for a first rounder. They didn't get it, but Sam Darnold is officially a Carolina Panther.
I mean, they got what they got. That's the bottom line, and you don't really want to be shuffling through young quarterbacks all that often, but that's what the Jets decided to do. So we'll see what happens. As far as Sam Darnold, I still think he's an incredibly talented player, a guy that can really be a franchise quarterback if developed the right way. He's got all the tools. He's got the intangibles. He's got the arm strength, the ability to create off schedule that really makes franchise quarterbacks. And in that system with Joe Brady, the LSU whiz, I really do think he stands a chance with all those weapons. And we'll see how it plays out, and it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, really excited to see what happens with Sam Darnold in Carolina. But the other Final Four game on Saturday was the Baylor Bears taking down the Houston Cougars. This game was not nearly as close, ending 78-59. Baylor moves on to the national championship game to take on Gonzaga. Can Baylor take down Gonzaga in the championship game?
Well, I think this is the matchup that everyone wanted, right? The two top dogs all season long, Baylor and Gonzaga. It should be a great game. I think that these two teams are not separated by all that much, and they're both elite. So anything can happen in this game. I think everyone's excited to watch it. Obviously, Gonzaga just had a scare with UCLA. Let's not forget that one. And it's a survive and advance tournament, but they certainly showed that they're mortal, and Baylor certainly has the talent to take them down.
Yeah, I think Baylor has a huge chance to take down Gonzaga. I think they'll end up beating Gonzaga in the end. These teams are split with strengths and weaknesses. Gonzaga, they have the better scorers, the better rebounding, and the better big man play. But Baylor is better from three, better defensively, and has better guard play. Lots of people are saying Drew Timme is an X factor for Gonzaga. I agree, but Timmy is going to get his points no matter what. If Baylor is focusing on defense and rebounding while taking advantage of their strengths from three, and if Baylor can hit their shots and defend Suggs and Kispert as well, they will have a great shot to win the national championship.
Should be as good a matchup as we could have asked for. Over in the ACC, legendary college basketball coach Roy Williams has called it a career after 33 seasons and 903 career wins. The former Kansas and North Carolina coach won 3 NCAA titles and went to 10 Final Fours in his career. Where does he rank all time amongst college basketball coaches?
For me, he's number 5 on the list. On the all-time list, I have Wooden, Krzyzewski, Dean Smith, and Bobby Knight, not in that exact order, but they're all ahead of Roy Williams. He has 3 national championships, 1 with Kansas, 2 with UNC, over 900 victories all time. The only argument would be Jim Boeheim, but I think the championships will give Roy Williams the edge there. Roy Williams, 3 championships, and he's missed the NCAA tournament just 3 times in his 33 years coaching. Roy Williams has to be in my top 5 all time.
I was going to say, don't you forget about Jimmy Boeheim. And my first thought when I saw this news was, this has to be an April Fool's joke because it did happen on April 1st. But Roy Williams had an outstanding career, as you said. I think the fact that he did it with multiple programs makes it all the more impressive. I think top 5 is probably his spot, maybe outside the top 5, depending on how you argue with it. All those names that you mentioned certainly deserve a spot in there. And I certainly was always scared as a fan when Roy Williams coached against my team, and I think pretty much everyone that went against him was.
Yeah, an unbelievable career for Roy Williams. But we're going to take a quick break here on Stick to Sports. Up next, we look at the opening week of the MLB season and some of the biggest headlines out of the NBA. Stay tuned on WTOP 10.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. The New York Mets just continue to make moves ever since owner Steve Cohen took over. The cherry on top was Francisco Lindor's 10-year, $341 million extension to stay in New York until 2031. This is the 3rd largest contract in MLB history behind Mookie Betts and Mike Trout. Do you think the Mets will make the playoffs this year?
Well, first of all, you saying the year 2031 just made me feel some sort of way. But back to the Mets as a whole. Listen, they're gonna have a shot. They got a solid lineup. We'll see how Syndergaard comes back. Obviously, DeGrom at the top of the rotation is gonna be good. We'll see how Stroman comes back from injury, and they have a lot of talent on that team. I'm not gonna deny that. They certainly will have a chance to make the playoffs this year. They're in an extremely competitive division. I think that 3 playoff teams might come out of that division, and the Mets are going to be right in that mix. And just while I'm at it, the contract for Francisco Lindor, to me, reeks a little bit of being desperate, just a little bit, to make sure that he gets locked up in New York. But he's certainly one of the best shortstops in baseball, and they're certainly going to reap the benefits of it at least right away.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's definitely possible the Mets make the playoffs. I think they're in a fight with the NL Central to get in, though. I have the Dodgers and the Padres as locks. I have the Braves winning the NL East. I think the Cardinals adding Arenado, the Brewers with Yelich, and even the Cincinnati Reds with all the talent they've added in the past couple of years. The Mets' big problem is what they have behind Jacob deGrom. You brought up Stroman coming back from injury. Syndergaard also coming back. They do have Carrasco now, but he's been inconsistent recently, and the bullpen is still mediocre. So I think pitching's the reason if the Mets don't make the playoffs. But over to the Nationals, and they have already had 4 games postponed after a coronavirus outbreak that involved 11 of their players. Washington will finally open their season on Tuesday against the Atlanta Braves, but should the MLB start getting worried about this?
Getting worried about it, I would say no. It seems like an isolated incident to me, but it certainly sucks for kind of the promotion of this year in general was kind of getting back to normalcy, getting back to an April start, and then right out of the gate, you have to deal with something like this. So it's certainly not what MLB wanted, but should they worry about it? I don't think so. It certainly sucks for Mets and Nationals fans who wanted to see their teams get started on opening day just like everyone else. But in the past year or so that we've had, you never know what's going to hit you. But I don't see this being a widespread issue. You never know, but they'll certainly monitor it.
I don't know if this is a major issue, but I think the MLB should be a little bit worried about it. The NBA and the NHL have both postponed games this season, but to already have this on the first day of the season, it's just something the MLB needs to look out for. There's still travel across the country. I think the Rangers having full capacity is a disgrace, and the MLB needs to work harder on this, I think, and they'll have a lot of problems this season. But finally, over to the Yankees, and they are the only team in New York to play games this season, but they've started in struggling fashion. The Toronto Blue Jays won the opening series at Yankee Stadium, taking 2 of the 3 games. It's very early, Zach, but what are your thoughts so far on the Bronx Bombers?
It's pretty simple what happened with the Yankees this weekend. They didn't hit at all. They did not hit at all. They're struggling. The top of the lineup struggled. Aaron Hicks struggled. Giancarlo Stanton struggled. DJ LeMahieu struggled. Aaron Judge struggled. It was just not a good offensive showing for the Yankees. They will be fine for sure, but it was an ugly first series to watch and not the way that you want to start out the season. On the bright side, the starting pitching was pretty good. Corey Kluber looked like he was healthy. Domingo Germán wasn't as good, but Michael King certainly picked him up. So the thoughts are simple. Once the bats get going, they're going to start winning games just like they always have for the last few years, and it just depends on what happens when they get to October.
Yeah, there's not too much to critique based on how early it is, but I think Cole had sparks in his start. He knows he could have been better, though. Sanchez looks fantastic, though. That's the one bright spot. 2 homers in the series. I think Hicks needs to be better if he's going to be in that 3 spot in the lineup, but I like what I've seen from Clint Frazier, and the Blue Jays have created a team that can start to challenge the Yankees in the AL East.
A very good point. Lots of young talent there. But now moving to the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks signed guard Drew Holiday to a 4-year, $160 million extension. After acquiring Holiday from New Orleans Pelicans over the offseason, the former All-Star is averaging 17 points per game with nearly 5 assists, along with his normal All-NBA caliber defense. Is this an overpay?
Yes, it is. As soon as this happened, I thought it was an overpay. The only reason is because Drew Holiday is not the difference for the Bucks winning a championship in the future. He's the 3rd guy on the team right now. And as long as the 2nd guy, Chris Middleton, is there, I don't think the Bucks can win a championship. I'm not too high on Chris Middleton when it comes to the big moments in the playoffs. Can Holiday be that 2nd guy? Yes, but they're not winning a championship like that. I'm sorry to Giannis, but this was definitely an overpay by the Bucks.
I agree with you, and I understand the nature of the NBA at this point is for guys to get $40 million a year, but it was still staggering for me to see a guy like Drew Holiday who is on the wrong side of 30, and like you said, not necessarily a difference maker for this Bucks team while he is a very good player. I agree with you with what you said. Chris Middleton is a very good player. I think he's better suited as more of a high-end role player. What the Bucks need on this team is a guy who can go and create his own shot, not in the paint. And that's what Giannis has struggled to do early in his NBA career, even though he's been so dominant. And that's what they need, and that's what they don't have. And Drew Holiday is not going to solve that. Speaking of former All-Stars, four-time former All-Star center Demarcus Cousins finally found a new home following his buyout from the Houston Rockets a few weeks ago. Cousins decided to sign with the title contender Los Angeles Clippers. Boogie has struggled to find consistency following multiple knee surgeries and stops with the Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Lakers. How much can he help them?
The Clippers now have 11 guys that can really play. The Rondo addition was massive for the playoffs. We talked about that last week, but Boogie is a solid addition. He hasn't been even close to the same player since those injuries, but putting him next to Ibaka and Zubac after he averaged 9 and 7 in Houston is really solid depth for the Clippers. I don't expect Boogie to have a huge impact, but he definitely adds experience to a championship contender in the Clippers.
I think you got to be realistic about this. Demarcus Cousins still has something to give, at least I believe so. He certainly has the ability to score. He can rebound. He's also a very good passer as a center. But you're not getting prime Demarcus Cousins. You're just not. So if he can come off the bench and be a little bit of a spark with his 20, 25 minutes or so, maybe even less than that, he will be a contributor to the Clippers, and he will help them. Well, going over to the MVP race, this might be the most open MVP award race in recent memory, as LeBron James and Joel Embiid both went down with injuries for a significant period of time, opening the race up to many other players. Damian Lillard, Stephen Curry, and Giannis Antetokounmpo have all jumped into the mix. Which player do you think ultimately gets the award?
At first, I said the MVP should be Joel Embiid, but due to Embiid's injury, I've ended up changing my pick, and I don't think this is a huge surprise, but the NBA MVP should be James Harden. As a Knicks fan, this hurts bad, but sometimes you just need to respect greatness. He is carrying them. Carrying them is an understatement for what James Harden has done for the Brooklyn Nets. Since Harden arrived in Brooklyn, they are 27-10. And since Kevin Durant went out with that injury, their best player, they are 18-4. Harden is averaging 26, 11, and 8 in his Brooklyn Nets career, and he is clearly the MVP with those kind of numbers.
Harden has had a great impact and maybe unexpected impact on that Brooklyn team, considering the length of time that Durant's been out. But for me, I'm still giving it to Joel Embiid with the caution of him staying healthy the rest of the year and continuing to play at the level that he did before. I think he was playing at a level of a big man that we haven't seen in years. And just the diversity of his game, the ability to score the ball in many different ways, and obviously play great defense. He elevated that 76ers team, and I think it would be good to see a different name up there for now. Obviously, that's not what gets awards, but I think Joel Embiid has been the best player in basketball this season. Well, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Zach, you'll be joined by Ben Diamond. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Stick to Sports.
The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people. Endowed, as our nation is, with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all, we approach reemployment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
Donate to Goodwill, where your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community.
Life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Welcome to Understood.org, a free online resource for parents of kids with learning and attention issues, with personalized recommendations, tools, and daily access to experts to help your child thrive. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. Joining me now is Ben Diamond, one of our producers. Ben, what do you have for us tonight?
For the first time in over 100 years, a pitcher was placed in second in the batting order. Shohei Ohtani, who some have compared to Babe Ruth because of his ability to pitch and hit, displayed his talent on both sides of the ball last night versus the Chicago Cubs. With a solo home run to right center field and going 4 2/3 innings in his regular season pitching debut with 7 strikeouts, and after not pitching in 2020 due to a forearm strain and Tommy John in 2019, Ohtani looks to right the course here in 2021.
A one-of-a-kind talent, Shohei Ohtani, the first player in the last 10 years with a 100-mile-per-hour pitch and a 450-foot home run. That both happened on Sunday night, but he has the ability to be great. The only thing holding him back is injury. You brought up the Tommy John and the forearm strain. If he stays healthy, Ohtani can take over the MLB this season.
Yeah, health is definitely the concern for Ohtani, and when he was planning on signing in the MLB, I was kind of concerned, not really just about the injury part, but more of how would his skill on both sides with pitching and hitting, how would that translate over to the major leagues? And obviously, he's proved to me and many other people who thought the same way as me that he can do it at a high level. And if he can continue doing this, he can end up being one of the greats. Now, moving over to the AL East, the Orioles have come into the season with a fire as they try to prove the league and the fans wrong. They started the season by sweeping the Boston Red Sox in the 3-game series with great outings by ace John Means, Bruce Zimmerman, and former Met Matt Harvey, who's looking to return to his former glory. They continue and start a new 3-game set versus the Yankees, looking to continue their hot start.
Yeah, nobody expected this from the Orioles. This series really showed how much the Red Sox have downgraded since the Mookie Betts trade, but it also showed that the Orioles can make a nice run this year. This is the same team that started last season with a 12-8 record. They do have to face the Yankees now, so they can't get too excited just yet, but it's looking very bright so far in Baltimore.
Yeah, and they definitely have a lot of good. They're starting to build up, even though they're not quite there yet. They're definitely building up with guys like Ryan Mountcastle at first base and in the outfield, Cedric Mullins, who bat over 600 in that first series, as well as the return of Trey Mancini this season, which is obviously a really good story to hear about. So they are looking very good, but we'll see if they can keep up their hot start. Now moving over to the AL Central with Luis Robert, who has a bright future in the MLB as part of the White Sox young core. But just like everyone else, he makes mistakes, like when he completely missed a pop-up to shallow center, which bounced off his head and away from him. This was very reminiscent of the time Jose Canseco had the same exact thing, hit his head and bounce over the wall for a home run. Now Robert has his whole career ahead of him to make up for this mistake.
Yeah, this play was pretty crazy. Looking back at the replay, what in the world was Robert doing? He ran from deep center field. The shortstop is right in front of him calling for the ball, and he's ready to catch it. And Robert just goes for it to bounce off his head. And the throw to the plate then hit the mound. Only one run ended up scoring, but a play to forget for young Luis Robert.
Yeah, that whole play was definitely a mess. But I don't think we'll be seeing much more of that in Robert's career because he seems like a very promising young talent, as well as Eloy Jimenez, who unfortunately is out with the pectoral injury for the entire season.
We do have to take a quick break here on Stick to Sports. Thanks once again to Ben for his segment. When we come back, Zach and I will go through our best bets and what to watch for. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Stick to Sports on WTOP 10.
Taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. The 85th Annual Masters Tournament at Augusta National Golf Club takes place this week. This will be the second Masters played in the last 7 months as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, having resulted in the tournament being moved all the way from April to November in 2020. One of the biggest storylines, of course, will be the absence of 5-time champion Tiger Woods as he recovers from his multiple leg surgeries as a result of his car crash last month. 2020 champion Dustin Johnson will look to defend his title, while Jordan Spieth will look to recapture his glory after a win this past week at the Valero Texas Open. This is my favorite tournament all year, and as always, I'll be rooting for my favorite golfer, Phil Mickelson, to defy Mother Time and win his 4th green jacket.
Yeah, really excited for the Masters this weekend. Always a lot of fun to watch. But my what to watch for this week is in the NBA, and people would think you were crazy if you told them the Jazz and the Suns would be in 1st and 2nd place in the West in early April. These teams do face off against each other, though, Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. The Jazz can go into this game on a 10-game win streak, depending on their game tonight in Dallas, while the Suns can come in on a 6-game win streak. Shooting guards Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker have been absolutely unstoppable for their respective teams this season, with both of them averaging exactly 25.6 points per game. Chris Paul has been an outstanding addition for Phoenix, and the Mike Conley acquisition for Utah continues to pay off. I think the X factor is Jordan Clarkson, my front runner for the 6th man of the year. He's been dominant with 17 points per game for the Jazz, and traveling to Phoenix has not been easy this season, but I think the Jazz come out with another win.
Yeah, the Jazz have certainly been the surprising team this year. Shifting to our best bets, I'm looking at the Masters tournament once again, and I'm looking at someone who has been red hot in recent weeks, 47-year-old Lee Westwood. Westwood has back-to-back runner-up finishes earlier this month at the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Players' Championship, narrowly losing to stars Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Thomas. As a veteran on the PGA Tour who knows this golf course in and out, combined with his great play as of late, Westwood has as much of a chance as anyone to make a run at a green jacket. At plus 3,600, I'll take those chances.
Yeah, that's a good one. Plus 3,600 for Lee Westwood at the Masters. I'm going to the NBA again this week. Yes, the Golden State Warriors have lost 7 of their last 8 games, but I'm still going to pick them to make it through the play-in tournament and get into the playoffs. Draymond Green said last week, quote, "Fighting for a playoff spot doesn't motivate me at all. I want to win. That's enough motivation for me," end quote. I think it is going to take some time, but the Warriors will get locked in to make it to the play-in tournament. And no matter who they play in that tournament, Steph Curry will be the best player on the floor. They are underdogs to make it to the playoffs with all of the talent they have on that team. And I think that's a huge mistake. Give me the Warriors at plus 225 to make the playoffs, where they've been 7 of the last 8 seasons.
I think we've all learned never to underestimate that team. But that's all the time we have on this episode of Stick to Sports. Be sure to tune in next week right here on WTOP 10.